Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to rebuild the clutch because Abigail is now stepping up to an 890 motor. So we're going to step up from the standard Shockwave to the overdrive Shockwave. But the one we got with the car is set up for a 790 car, and then we need to change springs out. So we thought we might as well just do a full rebuild and be on the safe side. Okay, so we're going to need a few tools to get this started. You need an assortment of ratchets, sockets, and Allen heads, but you also need a few specialty tools. This one here actually slides into the primary clutch and allows you to stick it on a vise so it doesn't spin. This one here will go thread into the center here and actually compress the spring so that you're able to get these bolts out without stripping the body out. And then this is the last one you'll need. It's for the spider gear down below. It goes into these 3 holes here and allows you to take that one off because it is also threaded down inside of there. So let's get started. Okay, now we're going to take the specialty tool to compress the spring and we're going to stick it on top. And there's another washer that goes on top. I like to put a little bit of lubrication on there so that it spins there and not on the clutch itself. I'm going to thread that in. These are all threaded on the inside. And then you're going to wind this one down and it'll actually pretty easily just, I like to hold that spacer so it doesn't drive onto the clutch, and it pretty easily compresses that down. Now that it's held down, we can start removing all these bolts. All right, now that you got all 4 bolts out, you can start releasing the spring pressure slowly. And then you take the tool out. Remove the spring. Now we're going to use the spider gear tool and set that on top of there. Grab the socket for it. Next, we're going to take all the flyweights off. So all you're going to do is just, the nuts are captured on the other side, so just Allen head and unscrew them. Yeah, really? Apparently my hands don't work. Now with the H28 weights that we're going to be putting in for this 890 motor, I like to take a little bit of 1500 grit sandpaper and polish the tops of where the rollers ride. And we also want to remove all the bushings and replace them. Okay, the replacement bushings for these ones are the 100 thou bushing. You make a few different thicknesses depending on the thickness of the weight. The rebuild kit comes with new bolts and nuts, so make sure you use them. Make sure your weights still move freely. And then we can show you the correct shim pack for this when you put it back on. This is 32 thou, 120 thou, 32 thou for the red spring. Next, we're gonna replace the rollers on the spider. Make sure the rollers are not too tight so they don't roll smoothly and freely. Now we got to replace the rollers for the weights. Take out this set screw. Next, you want to get a punch, fit inside the hole to punch out the axles for the rollers. Should come out pretty easy. Get your replacement rollers. I don't know if you guys can see, but these have got a pretty good taper on one side so that you can drive them in the correct way. Make sure to go on the side where the set screw is. It's a little tap. I like to put a little bit of blue Loctite on these so they don't back out. That completes the spider. We're gonna start reassembling. Don't forget your shims that are required for the red spring. Your 32 thou, 120, and a 32 thou. And place a spring, cap, and now we're going to use the tool again to compress the spring so we can put those last bolts in. Careful when you guys tighten these all the way down, not to strip out the Allen heads. It's pretty easy to do. Now we're just gonna loosen the tool back up. Your primary is complete. Now we'll move on to the driven. Okay, first we're gonna separate it by removing the bolts from the post. Usually you can do 2 of them like this, and the third one I like to put a little bit of pressure on it so that the spring doesn't push it out and damage any of the threads. Now we move to the back side and remove the screws from the post from the back side. There is a shim in the middle of this, of the reverse driven for the overdrive clutch. If you're working on a standard Shockwave, that shim is not there. Now we're going to remove the rollers. Don't forget to clean up all the excess rubber and grease and what have you inside here before you put it back together. Get your new rollers. Start reassembly. Next we're going to take these little plastic Fanatic guides out, bushings. You can take a small screwdriver in here and just kind of pry them out a little bit. Press the new one back in. You'll see once again they do have a taper on one side and flat on the other. So they go in pretty easy. Come in and reinstall your little set screws. Tighten these down, but once again be careful. This small Allen head, very easy to strip out the head. While you're here and you have the chance to clean up these ramps, and if they're got any wear marks on them, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a little bit of 1500 grit sandpaper and polish them out a little bit, which I think I'm going to do. Make sure that roller be able to follow this nice and smooth, not have any hang-ups. Then we're going to do the same thing with the rear sheave. I have found these to be very easy to strip out, so I tend to use a little Torx head. It's going to give me a little bit more bite in the Allen. Careful not to scar up the riding surface of it. Again, taper down. Press it right back in. Start a reassembly. Get your new post out. Now we're going to reinstall the post. I'm going to reinstall them into Helix first. I don't use Loctite on the front side of these, just in case you want to change the spring location. Make sure that you use the shouldered side of the post onto this side. And don't press it all the way in to begin with because it will fight you. Leave them a little loose, so you have a little wiggle room once you get the spring in. The spring into the locating hole on the sheave, and then the spring into the hole with a little tiny hole next to it. On the back screws, I like to put a little blue Loctite on them because they're very hard to get to once you reassemble it on the car. Some cars are virtually impossible to get to. They do tend to back out with all the vibration that these cars make. And there you go, one Shockwave overdrive rebuilt and ready to go back on the car.